Hey, it's Chris, Liege Games. Let's do this. So, this one's going to be a little different. I'm going to have a little bit of the physical. Instead of you just seeing me pull up a screen and my little head being in the little corner, we're going to actually have me have games. I have a big pile of games right here. This video, games from my shelf of opportunity, not shelf of shame, because there's no shame here. There could be, but there's not. Shelf of opportunity that I need to get played, that are high on my list that I need to get played in the beginning of 2022. Like, these are the ones that are going to be fighting for table space right away. And these are new games, games that are new to me, games that I have not played, games that I want to experience. Now, I don't have all of them sitting next to me, but I have most of them. So we're going to go through 10, well, not 10, because there's always a couple honorable mentions. So we'll do a couple honorable mentions, just 3 at the beginning here, promise. And then we'll get into the 10, and some of them are physical, some of them are not. So let's do this. First up, I have no attachment to the IP in the first place. So Dune has done nothing for me. It's one of the few classic sci-fis that I never was interested in. Now, eventually, maybe I'll read it, but as of right now, it does nothing for me. So there's no nostalgia, there's no extra influence factor like there would be with some of the other fantasy series. And so I just need to know, because this is all the rage. The expansion just came out. People are hyping the expansion now. Dire Wolf has got a very hot commodity on their hands here, and people love it. Arguably, people prefer this one over Lost Ruins of Arnak. I mean, they're two different experiences. One is much more worker placement, apparently. This one, slightly more. The other one is more deck building, but I guess feels a little bit more samey. I don't know. I'm speaking from just things and clips I've heard here and there. That's just it. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of worker placement. I'm a big fan of deck building. Can the two merge and be cohesive and live in coexistence up here? And the answer is, again, I don't know, and I haven't played it. And I'm willing to give it a chance, though, because I traded for it in the November math trade on BoardGameGeek. So we're going to see how it entails, what it looks like, and, not only do I like it, but, again, with something like that, because, again, my group shares a similar feeling on the worker placement in general, is it going to fit there as well? So that's why it's honorable mention number 1. Honorable mention number 2. I have too many dungeon crawlers. Way too many. Trying to get rid of a few. I got this sent to me as a review copy. I'm pledging right now in the Pledge Manager. I need to figure out how big am I going in the Pledge Manager? What is it looking like from that aspect of things? How different is this? And again, does this vibe of dungeon crawl fit with me and my playstyle? I really like the concept. I really like the actuality of it. But when rubber hits the road, what does it look like long term? I just ran into another review copy that I played of a completely different game that I thought really started out strong, and the more me and my wife played it, the less enamored I became with it because it became very one note. And I don't think that's the case with this, but I think definitely getting a few of the expansions is going to be, a big price point. So, I mean, with all of the other stuff out there and all the other stuff competing for table time, that has to be, on the forefront. Because I got a lot of other big things sitting next to me that are table hogs, but more so time hogs. Because they require, and it's almost a need to have more time from that side of things. So is this one going to work from that as well? I like the cubes and the recalls and the use of those. I like the fact that it scales. Some of the other problems with some of the other games even next to me, or even the other dungeon crawlers, they don't scale well. So if it can really impress me through multiple plays, this is going to get a lot more space in my closet. It sounds weird to say, but it's true. So that's honorable mention number 2. Honorable mention number 3, and then we'll get into the top 10 list. This is Battle for Biternia. Speaking of one of the older games that I have, I'm putting myself on blast here. That's the reason I'm putting these two especially on the honorable mentions. Stone Circle Games sent me this copy. I've got it sitting upstairs. I need to get this played. MOBA-esque, 8-bit, streamlined, taking all of the good stuff, getting rid of some of the superfluous fluff, and making it a solid game. This one flew under the radar. They just did an expansion for it earlier in 2021. And again, as something I could see myself getting a little bit more of, because, I mean, they don't need a ton, but just a little bit more. I love the idea of this as well, because a two-player game that gives me enough tacticals, enough strategy, we'll get to another game on this list that's going to sound very similar to this, that my wife can play. That is something that's not too overhead rules-wise, that's not going to be too extreme. And it's just a solid product. There's not a lot of bling, there's not a lot of FOMO, there's not a lot of bleh. It's just, boom, here you go. Solid, we put out a good game, bam. And I need to see whether or not it's right for me. I'm putting myself on blast. Let's do this. Okay, we're going to zoom out here for just a second because I'm going to start holding stuff up because that is the best way to show you. And you know what? I'm going to start with this one, but I got another one right up that's really important. This is, I wasn't joking, I bought all of 7th Cross Exceed. This is still in shrink. I don't have all of them down here, just showing you one for the camera, but this is more Exceed. The thing you can't see just out of shot down here is the playmat, right? So I'm not joking about that. Like, I am all in on Exceed. Like, I love it. I cannot wait until the next season. It's just, you know, I want to find out which one of these is my preferred. Because there are definitely some styles that fit and work, and I love experimenting and finding that out. Because I look at the little gauges that they put on, like the Blaze Blue ones on the back here, and they're like, well, this person is, you know, more offense, and this one's more speed, and I'm just like, I don't have a clue. Let's just play it and see what happens and see how I like the cards, and let's just go from that standpoint. And so I'm excited to just do the same with this because this has like transformations. Like your characters like get to transform into like other things, and that's cool. Crazy overpoweredness. Oh yeah. Sign me up. Exceed. There you go. That's number 10. Number 9. And the reason I'm showing you this one is because everyone goes, oh man, you know, you're reviewing, you get all these games and it's so easy, and then they're so pretty and they're free and they're awesome, and oh no, my corners are dinged. You know, you see those posts on Facebook like, oh, I don't know what to do. How big of, you know, customer service hasn't responded to me because there's this slight ding in my corner. So Off the Page Games a while back said, you know what, is anyone interested in mind management? The Kickstarter game of the hidden deduction, sort of, you know, one side versus the other spies-ish thing. The psychic espionage game is their tagline. And I said, oh yeah, I'd be interested. You know, I like me some 1v all. I don't do a lot of hidden movement, and so I'd like to try it out. That was right after I did the preview/review of Beast, and I was super excited by that. And so they're like, oh, you know what? Okay, we'll get you on the next round. And I was like, okay, sure. And then they reached out to me and they said, hey, we got a copy, but there's like some damage. You know, there's like a little bit of a damage on it from the warehouse. Would you be interested? I'm like, yeah, sure. You know, because I'm not one of those people that I need my boxes to be like, you know, crystal and pristine. And you know what? This is no fault to them. I am very happy with this copy. Looks great, right? Looks awesome. Boom. You know what? And you know what? I don't care. Because this is not what I'm worried about. I'm worried about what's in here. And from all accounts, everything that's in here, people have been raving about from this side of things. And so I want to see what this entails because, again, I think this is another easy one to get to the table. I don't think there's going to be as much overhead. I don't think there's going to be as much trouble. And it just looks kind of cool. It's a cool premise. And we haven't seen a whole lot of these games in general because they're hard to do and they're hard to do well. And so it's probably good that we don't see a lot of them because otherwise there'd be a lot of crappy ones floating around. But this is just something completely different in terms of mechanics, and it plays 1 to 5, so that's a great player count, very variable and very adaptable, so I'm excited to see what it does. Next up is one of my favorite companies because I just feel like they put out solid stuff. I don't always like their stuff, but there's a lot of hits from that side of things, and this is Summoner Wars 2. Second edition Summoner Wars. It's just the remake. I never got in on the first one. When I first started in the hobby, this was one of the first games when I went to one of my game nights when I was just, you know, oh my gosh, what's King of Tokyo? I saw someone playing this. It was this or Mage Wars, I forget. I think it was this, though. Actually, it was this. And, you know, I'm going to leave that part in because that's me in a nutshell. And I looked at that and I said, wow, that's too complex for me. And it sort of stuck with me, even though, you know, nowadays, I'm playing Exceed. I've got a couple other things on this couch next to me right now that are going to eclipse anything like this in terms of complexity. And again, this pre-constructed deck that my wife and I can just take out and play, again, works so well with Exceed. It's going to work and just do the same with this. And it's only you get to move your units and move them around the map. And I'm really excited by that fact. And if this goes, I could see this easily being a game that I support multiple iterations of expansions at retail, because I don't do that a lot. I kind of had done that really only with Marvel Champions right now, of bought stuff on sequence on a retail side of things. Because, again, you've heard me say this elsewhere, maybe you haven't. I don't buy a lot of retail. I trade for a lot of retail. I buy a fair amount of Kickstarter and crowdfunding, but I'm very selective on the retail side of things. And so to make me even consider doing retail, that says something right there. And Plaid Hat Games is solid. Again, I don't always line up taste-wise, but I've got more than a couple of their games in my collection, and this one hopefully is going to stay there too. Not for my wallet's sake, but for everything else. Now this one. This one is the newest one on the list, and I couldn't grab the base game, and you'll understand why when I show it to you, because the base game is about 3 times the size of this, and I couldn't hold it up on my shoulder, because that wouldn't work at all. But this is Uprising, Curse of the Last Emperor. Now, this one, I couldn't bring the whole base game, because the base game is about 3 times the size of the expansion that I'm holding here, but it'll show you a little bit of just the aesthetic and what we're dealing with and the premise of it, and maybe I'll pull this one up on the video so you can see a little bit more of what it entails. But this is a Kickstarter I've been waiting for, because if you know anything about me at this point, I like hard co-ops. And so this is the expansion, the Arch Nemesis expansion for Uprising, Curse of the Last Emperor. Sort of this cooperative, asymmetric faction where you're going against not only like another faction, but also like a big bad. And it just is right up my ilk. And from early reports from the forum threads that I've seen, it's hard. It's very hard. And that excites me. Now, I'm a little concerned because the rulebook is a little thicker than I thought, but again, that's not a big deal anyway nowadays, because again, 2 of the things sitting next to me are going to eclipse anything that this can offer too. So, you know what? So be it. It just means I got to sit down and actually do it. This is sort of the picture that you're dealing with. Did I mention it's standees instead of miniatures? And that's why this is the expansion and the base game is only 3 times the size of it. The base game is still 3 times the size of this, folks, with standees. Look at all the stuff you're getting. Again, it is great. Now, again, the only concern I have is that playtime, because that playtime could be a real barrier. But if it's as good as I think it is, and I hope it is, then it also becomes less of a barrier from that side of things. And again, it's a 4X. So that is both terrifying and both intriguing at the same time, because I don't have any other 4Xs. I have 0 4X games in my collection. The only other game I've even played that's 4X was when I did the preview for Fractal. And that was significantly different. That was not cooperative. That's competitive or solo. And this one being cooperative, again, sets it apart from others that are in this genre. One, the 4X. We just saw all the exclamation points used with Voidfall, right? That people were saying, oh, it's Spirit Island in space. Well, this is Spirit Island with fantasy 4X, you know? So this was more of the predecessor, or doing it before Voidfall made it cool. And that's why I like the idea of this and the premise of this with these asymmetric factions, and it's just looking fantastic. So, I mean, this is the one that I actually have the rulebook open for, sitting up on my counter upstairs, that I'm trying to get played very soon, even by the time or before this video airs. That's how excited I am about this one, and that's why I think, you know what, it's gonna got some table space very easily. You'll understand what I was talking about when I was saying heavier games over there, because I was talking both literally and figuratively, because now we have Oath. And Oath. You'll notice it's still in shrink. I hate to say that it's still in shrink, and it's embarrassing, because one of the viewers sent it to me, and I just haven't had a chance to get it out. I mean, because the overhead is higher, because the requirement is, you know, multi-game arc, essentially. That's been the biggest barrier, and so that's why it's also going to be fighting right away at the beginning of 2022, because I want to get this bad mother played. Because, in case you missed it, Cole Worley's got another one coming out. And I want to know how much I like some Cole Worley before I also get my Root expansions as well. And Root was on the short list that got cut for this video, because that's also out there of things that I need to get played. So, again, sort of a one versus all, atypical, very swingy, not as straightforward as people liked, overall game. That seems to have either people, again, like I predicted this when it was launching. It's just like Root. What you think it is, or what you look at it and think it is, versus what it actually is. And I know what it actually is. It's just, will I like what it actually is? I'm hopeful because of the heavy card-driven play. I love card-driven play. I love it. I love it. I love it. Maybe even slightly more so than dice now at this point, because it offers such a dynamic. And I love overpowered things. I mean, heck, look at Exceed. I just love, it doesn't have to be completely and utterly balanced, because I love things swinging back and forth. That's why I ended up backing and getting the $1 in on Mindbug, because it's not because everything was, perfectly balanced and seasoned to a T and, that sort of thing. It's because it's just fun. And that's how I look at this, is I go, this looks awesome. I think we could have a lot of fun with this, with the swinginess, because we enjoy ourselves. We are not like rule mongers at this, because I am also the teacher for most of these games, and we inevitably miss rules. And everyone goes, oh, okay. Okay, let's do that better next time. Oh, okay. And again, it's about having fun. And I think this game is going to be a lot of fun in a completely different way than anything else in my collection. So that's why it's on this list. Now, the other thing, the only thing that could be heavier, literally and potentially figuratively speaking as well too, is this mother. Too Many Bones. I wasn't kidding. I wonder if people like doubt me when I say that. They're like, oh, he's just saying that to get in on the trend. No, I traded for this locally. Now you can literally see it. And I went in on Unbreakable. And so the question is, again, on how much I'm going to get in the Pledge Manager Unbreakable. I'd like a few extra guys. I may get like one of the other expansions, but I don't see myself getting or being one of those people that's going to have like a Too Many Bones collection that's like this big. Premium chips, premium RPG driven. The only concern I have is because you've got some people that say, you know what, if you're a min-maxer, you can min-max this and do the same thing every single time. And so that's why I look at one of those expansions with some more variety, some more variability, some more bosses to maybe change up that min-max slightly. Or, you know what, you're going to get enough time out of it. Even if you min-max the same one and go through everything you got, it's still going to give you a heck of a lot of time from a game standpoint. The pedigree is there. The weight is there. I mean, literally, this thing is relatively decently heavy on my shoulder right now. But otherwise, I'm excited to see what this entails. And again, it's probably going to be too heavy for anyone in my family. But this is another game that at some point, if my kid gets older and we start venturing out into this side of things, I could see him loving this too. So there you go. Too Many Bones. So next one up, we have, and this one is probably the second newest one. Actually, this one is going to be the newest one on the list. I take that back about Uprising. I'm sorry, Uprising, because I got Uprising. This is a pre-production copy, and this is one that I hyped on the other video as well too. This is Anna's House, the Fire Emblem board game. This is a head-to-head or cooperative versus boss battler based on the Fire Emblem series. And this cover doesn't do it justice. This game has a stack of about this thick, no joke, this thick, unique heroes with asymmetric abilities, keywords, and actions, and stats. And it's not going to appeal to a lot of people. But for people like me, I have a very strong feeling that, again, with Uprising, this is probably going to be one of the next things that hits the table, either as this is being launched for you guys to see, or even prior to this video airing. Because it takes it in a sort of grid-based movement where it's not just combat. It's not just, Exceed where I'm battling back and forth and there's a little bit of positioning. It's not Street Fighter where you're moving around, or Summoner Wars where you're moving stuff around, there's more tactics. This is also a little bit of slight area control, where there are castles on the hexes, on the map. And the winner is going to be controlling those a certain number of times, potentially. And the balance and the catch-up mechanics, so like if you get a hero defeated, you're going to get something in return. So it benefits you. It's not just a runaway train in terms of who's winning. And this one has also been tested extensively online. I think Tabletop Simulator or Tabletopia, one of the two, they've been playing it for like the last year or two. So this is not something that is an unknown from that side of things. And the art is fantabulous. This art, I'm going to pull it up right now for you, because there are like, I don't even know, like 50, 100 artists that went in and they just like fan serviced it across the internet, essentially. I'm going to blow this up here because this is like actual quality, and it's all done by different artists, so there's a different style on a lot of the cards, and it's just very, very unique. I've not seen anything else like it, and it's just a unique concept and premise. And again, I say this as someone has no interest or association or attachment to the original IP. So it's not me being a Fire Emblem fanboy and going, oh, this is going to be the greatest thing since sliced cheese. No. This just looks like a game that's cool, and they've incorporated a lot of cool things to make it awesome. But again, I mean, yes, this one, as a completely independent, non-crowdfunded, non-retail, self-produced game, is more expensive. And again, you're going to pay for what you're going to get, though. And who do you support? I mean, people say that all the time, but do you actually do it? This is one that, you know, it's worth considering if this is of your ilk. It's got a great premise because you've got 3 different unit slots, but you've got 4 colors. You've got a gray unit, a green unit, a blue unit, and a red unit that you're drawing and being able to play. The gray can go in any slot, but if you need to get one of that color out, you have to move the gray one over as one of your actions before you can free up that slot. So you can't have more than 3 units on the board. So again, it's a very interesting concept. And it does it a little bit differently. You can see that in the cooperative, you're on all sides there, and you know it's truly representative of what the boss battling modes are that come with it. So it's going to be delivering sometime in the next couple months to people who bought a copy, and it's going to be very interesting to see sort of what happens, because this is one that's flying under the radar that I think is going to surprise people as well. You know what? We're going to make this easy. I didn't even plan this. Change in script. Imperium Legends, number 8. This is one that I just need to get played because Osprey Games is making quality stuff. I'm really interested in their other stuff. I need to know whether or not I need to get classics for this 1 to 2 player asymmetric deck building faction type game that people say is unlike a lot of else that you've played. Now again, it's 1 to 2 player. So I know a lot of solo people are really loving this. And how well does it hold up? Because again, I think this is a little bit more complex than necessarily my wife is used to playing. And so for her, that's always the question, because that was the other issue with the other copy sitting in the corner of the room over here out of sight when we played For Glory. I really liked For Glory, but it was a little bit too much for her in terms of what's going on. And so that's my only concern with a game like this. But then, you know, again, with some of my other gaming group, when I play with the gaming group, you know, we don't play a lot of 2-player games. Like, if I have another person over, well, normally I want 2 people over. If I want to play 2-player games, I'm usually just going to play with my wife. If I want to play with a group, I want it to be 3 or 4 potentially. And so that's my only concern with a game like this. Now, again, the asymmetric factions, just like with Exceed, trying to find the one that you like the best, trying to find which one matches your playstyle. And I went for Legends because I just thought some of the actual factions in here were much cooler. When you've got what? Arthurians, Utopians, Atlanteans, Egyptians, Minoans, and the Olmecs. I think those are a lot more interesting to me than a lot of the other classic ones. But that was just my own personal preferences. Are the tastes and the playstyles going to line up with that? I have no idea. But that's why I want to get it played, to see if I even like the concept in general before I go anywhere else. So the last 2, we're going to have to go back up to the video screen because I didn't bring any more games down with me, and you know what? We can still do that because it's fun. I love sci-fi. I love fantasy. I love real-time. But I have not really played at all, hardly, Project Elite. And I need to decide what I'm going to do with it because it's another big space plastic chucker in my collection from CMON. Especially with the other stuff coming out in 2022, I need to decide, is this a hit? Is this a miss? I just don't know. Because I love real-time so much. I love Sorcerer City. I love Cuphead. I love Bullet. I love all of those games. I love Millennium Blades. I have a feeling this game is going to get the same amount of love as those other projects. But I don't know because it's miniature-based and because it's something completely different. Again, there's nothing out there that really replicates this whatsoever. And so it's not like you can be like, oh, well, I liked X, so I think I'm going to like Z. There's plenty of other games you can do that with, right? This is not one of those. Because this is so unique, because this is so miniature-based, because this is so frenetically grid-based, you know, combat and shoot-'em-up and abilities and everything else that CMON is known for when it comes to that. And so I need to figure out whether or not Project Elite is right for me. I have a couple expansions. I didn't get all of the stuff, though. This was one of the first campaigns where I backed off and I said, I don't need all of those expansions, even all of the Kickstarter exclusive ones. And I was really proud of myself. At the same time, you know, when you actually get it to the table, that's always the question. So I'm happy with that. I like that, but I need to see what does it look like as an end product, and is the project as a whole equal than or greater to the sum of the parts that I already know that I like. And so that's why I need to figure that out. You know what? Screw it, I lied. Changed my mind again. Changed my mind mid-video. Root. Root's on the list. We're going to end the video with Root. Because I went in on Marauders. I traded for the base game and the Riverfolk. I went all in on the Hirelings from Marauders expansion. And especially with the Marauders stuff giving us more too. Again, this is a game where I think once we learn it, it's going to be fine. I have a feeling that over the next month or so, I'm probably going to actually buy the digital version so I can learn it that way instead of trying to read it or watch it or whatever else. Because I know people talk about it. I know people say, well, it's a war game. I know that. I have no doubts about what it is. I just need to get it played. I need to burn me some bridges and some forests because I'm going to go all vagabond on their cats, birds, or mouses. So that's what I need to do because the Marauders expansion, just like the Unbreakable Too Many Bones, looks so intriguing to me. I am willing to go to some of these other ones that are slightly less appealing and learn them anyway so that the new stuff, when I get it, will work and will fit in. I'll already know how to do it from that standpoint. And again, just like a lot of these other games, finding the faction that clicks best with me. But again, like a couple of these, it's going to need plays. It's going to need plays. And that is the biggest barrier. And that's why sometimes you just got to commit to it. Just say, boom, there you are, and let's do this. So that's Root. I'm diving in, baby. I'm waist deep in this hobby, and I'm about to go neck deep. That's all I got. So there we go. 10 games plus a few honorable mentions of things that I need to hit the table. I want to hit the table because they look like awesome games. And I just need to figure out how awesome they are and how awesome they are for me personally. Because let me emphasize that last point. If you get nothing else from this video, there are a lot of great games out there. But the difference is it a great game for you? That is the main reason I have backed off of a lot of the crowdfunding. That is the reason I saw someone else, a major channel, post the other day that they had backed 80 games in the last year or something like that. And I'm sure a couple of the other major channels have backed just as many. I am not one of those major channels. I probably was at maybe 20 this year. I'm going to have to look at this up after this video. But I don't think I'm anywhere near those other channels. And I think this is probably, again, my lowest amount ever. Because, you know, if you can't play them, if you can't get them to the table, if you like what they are, but not how they actually play, then it's just buying it to resell it. I've seen that so much, and especially with like these games that I mentioned with Root and Oath, so many of those like that on the resale, the secondary market side of things. Because people are like, oh, I don't want to miss out on the grass is greener, and I need to keep up with the Joneses, and you just can't. You just can't, folks. Find stuff that's right with you. Find stuff that works for you. That's why some of these games make me just that much more excited. And the lesser hyped ones even. Uprising. Looking back on this list now. Uprising and Anna's Table might be the two most hyped games for me on all of this list. Because it's what fits with me. And Exceed. And Summoner Wars. But you know where I'm going with this. They fit. And that's what matters. So don't buy it off of someone's review of this is going to be an awesome game. It's the whole reason right now. As I'm filming this, Arc Nova is sitting on the top of the hotness. Do you know how many times I have pulled up a pre-order page on Arc Nova and almost bought it? Almost pre-ordered it? Dozen, probably. Haven't done it yet, though. I look at it and I go, this is too heavy for me. I go, this is a 3 to 4 hour game. Whew! Chris, that's not your thing. Here versus here, folks. That's all I got. Have a great day. Hopefully your holidays have been great. Stay warm. If you have snow like I do, wherever you're at. I got nothing else. I'm just rambling totally on at the end here. My kids are making cookies upstairs with my wife. They just introduced the 1-year-old to cookie dough. Oh, man. That kid's gonna be trouble. He is trouble. He's hilarious, though. That's all I got. Cookie dough away! Stay classy. Have a great day.